मिनश शैतानिर रजीम बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम अस्सलामु अलैकुम व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू. The caption of my presentation is the relevance of interfaith dialogue in the contemporary times and how Badiuzzama Sayyid Nursi perceives it. Of course, these days in the 20th century, in the beginning of the 21st century, dialogue has become a great industry in the world. And dialogue belongs to the sphere of public sphere, belongs to the realm of public sphere. But in this connection, how does religion come into place, a very important role in this very important industry? Much before the world has come to understand the importance of dialogue, more than 100 years ago, if I remember very exactly, when Badiuzzama Sayyid Nursi, through his Khutbah-e-Shamiyya, Damascus sermon in 1905, underlined the very importance of dialogue and forecasting and foreshadowing the relevance of dialogue in the 21st century. This tells me very, very importantly how great a visionary he was. He could prophesy, he could foresee the dawn of new phenomena, the dawn of new events, much before the world has come to understand them, come to coin them, and come to bring them to the public fore. And of course, for me, I think the more I read the Risala-e-Nur running into 6,000 pages, it tells me very, very intuitively and very, very clearly that it is a especially unique hermeneutical exercise, an exercise in the interpretation of the scriptures particularly. And I call it a hermeneutical uniqueness, the very interpretation epitomized in the Risala-e-Nur, precisely because he has done it using the faculty of rationality, the faculty of reason. It's a very, very highly scientific method. I mean, explaining the phenomena or the epiphenomena, the metaphysics or the religion through the method of rationality. And that is the greatest contribution of his to Islamic thinking in the 21st century. And also, in the second place, this Risala-e-Nur will also tell us the very importance of changing the epistemology. Enlightenment-centric epistemology, thanks to the Western Enlightenment phenomena, tells us that revelation has nothing to do with modern civilization. Revelation has nothing to do with the development of knowledge. But again, Risala-e-Nur will tell us reason alone is not everything. Reason has its own limitations. Whatever reason you have got, whatever rationality you have got it to the extent only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed you to get it. That's all. There are things which rationality, which reason alone cannot capture. And in order to understand the completeness of human life, the purpose of human life, the purpose of living on this earth, then you have to resort to the aid of revelation, that is Wahi. And he has, the moral crisis which most of the world is suffering right now, the lack of religiosity, the lack of spirituality, the lack of compassion to the rest of the world, the exploitative nature of the world, the kind of control which one section of the society is imposing upon the other section of the society. I think most of these things, hopefully, inshallah, will disappear if we take into account the requirements of revelation and the requirements of science also. I think this is this Risala-e-Nur to me tells me that there is a great need to revisit the present epistemological models that most of the universities and colleges and education institutions in this world have been basing knowledge only on the basis of reason, only on the basis of akal, and also stripping the role of revelation in this very great exercise. I think human beings will going to land themselves in a greater trouble if they pay deaf ear to this very importance of revelation. I think epistemology, Risala-e-Nur has brought us to the notice of the whole world, not just to the followers of Islam alone, has brought us to the notice of the whole world. Let's unless you take care of your Revelation 2, unless you pay your heed to Revelation 2, you are going to be doomed. I think this is the greatest warning which Risale Nur has projected onto the world. I think the world will do well in respecting this warning and taking care of their own self in this world, fi dunya and also akhirah. And very importantly, as most of my earlier speakers have spoken it very, very well, I think I did not have to underline this point beyond a particular level. The greatest enemies to Islam and the greatest enemies to all believing persons in this world are not the other. And most of us are made to think, thanks to Western media, thanks to so many other things, thanks to also our own imperfections, that we look at the other is the enemy. The identity politics will like to make us believe that your greatest enemy is the other. The othering, the othering of the enemy perception is something which, to the mind of Risale Nur, doesn't find any place. Of course, as you rightly pointed out in his Hudbe-e-Shami, the greatest enemy of Muslims are disunity. The point has been very much underlined by Professor Thomas Mitchell here itself. And the greatest enemy of Muslims is disunity. I think it may also equally be the greatest enemy to the followers of other religions. And again, ignorance. When you talk of ignorance, he is not talking ignorance only in terms of absence of knowledge, or ignorance not just in terms of illiteracy. He is talking of ignorance in a very, very wider context. Ignorance of the very existence of God on earth. Ignorance that you are, ignorance that you don't accept that there is a creator behind you, and ignorance that your life is dependent upon the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it is to Him that you have to return. And He is talking of ignorance in this very, very great canvas. I think that is also the greatest enemy of human beings. And again, of course, poverty. Again, poverty here is not material-centric alone. Poverty, disposition, your inability to have an access to basic necessities of life in comparison to other sections of the society. Poverty in materialistic terms is known to us. But here he is also talking of poverty in terms of absence, in terms of non-recognition of your very existence by the Creator. Poverty of thought. He is talking of poverty in terms of ideas, poverty of tafakkur, poverty of contemplation, and poverty in terms of superstitions, both physical and mental on the part of those who practice it, and also on the part of those who have been the victims of this Islamophobia. I think dialogue comes into the aid of this, in dismantling the structures of Islamophobia in this world. I think to this extent that Muslims have also to contribute, the followers of Islam should also to contribute to dispel the lack of knowledge on the part of the rest of the world. I think dialogue will come into the greatest rescue in bringing people together. And of course, Risale Nur doesn't talk in terms of looking at things in binary terms. As I have understood to the best of my ability, to my limited knowledge of the Risale Nur, this much I can tell, that it doesn't look at things in contradictory terms, except in one case. And here, when I talk of atheism, or when I talk according to Badi'u Zama, in the opinion of Badi'u Zama, atheism is not merely the total absence, the belief in the total absence of God, but atheism can also be the undermining of the very faith with which people are associated. It may masquerade in the form of secularism, maybe laicism, maybe something else. So to which he has given a great deal of his interpretation and enterprise in his Risale Nur, that look, people of belief, get united, lest you should go astray. I think this is one of the greatest contributions of Badi'u Zaman Sayyid Nursi. The people, I think most of the world has come to realize how important faith is, and how unimportant the materialistic life will be, because happiness is not merely the function of your material riches. Happiness can also be acquired through spiritual methodologies. I think this is the greatest contribution to the thinking of Islam, or to the Islamic thinking as far as Badi'u Zaman Sayyid Nursi is concerned. Dialogue for the cause of the emancipation of human beings from the oppressive regimes, from the emanation of human beings from their own nafs, and faith for the cause of human emancipation, human liberation. And finally, I think this is his greatest contribution. I think he did, the most important thing for me is that he did not look at undermine any other religious community. He did not believe in othering the other. To which most of the thinking people even nowadays have been the greatest victims. I think the most important thing here in this connection is that much before the world has recognized the importance of dialogue in the 20th century, or last phase of the 20th century and the 21st century, the credit goes to Badi-e-Zaman Syed Nursi, that he has forecasted the importance of dialogue more than a century ago through his Khutbah-e-Shamiyah, when he delivered that sermon to the in Damascus, in a very famous mosque, in which I think very importantly scholars, including some Christians, also participated. I think that is his greatest contribution as far as the present day dialogue is concerned. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin bi rahmatika ya arhameen.